Hello, I'm Amanda, and this is my very first English practice listening video. I got a microphone. That may not seem like a big deal, but believe me, it is. More about that later. In this video, I will tell you a little bit about myself, my life, and what it's been like for me during quarantine. I will be using the present perfect and present perfect continuous tenses and some of the synonyms and phrases from my previous videos. See if you can hear when I use them. At the end of the video, there will be a short quiz to see what you understood. All right, let's get started. Here are some tips for watching this video. Listen to the video twice. The first time you listen to the video, listen without subtitles. The second time, turn on the subtitles by clicking the closed caption button below. Write down new words and phrases and make your own sentences. Practice using your new words with your teacher or language partner as soon as possible. This will help you remember your new vocabulary. Hi, my name is Amanda. I am an EFL teacher, an adventurer, a creator, a writer, and an avid reader. I read at least 4 books a month, usually more. I was born and raised in Colorado in the United States. I grew up in Summit County, a breathtakingly beautiful county in the mountains. You might be asking yourself, why did she say that she grew up in a county and not a town or a city? That's a great question. Technically, my parents' house is in Dillon, but I went to middle school in Frisco, to high school in Breckenridge, and most of the shopping was done in Silverthorne. So it doesn't feel right to say I'm only from Dillon when I spent so much time in other towns. My parents, Fred and Linda, still live in the same house I grew up in. I have one older brother, Rob, who lives with his wife, Jolene, in Colorado Springs, a few hours away from my parents. I went to the University of Northern Colorado and received a Bachelor of Arts in Directing Theater. After university, I moved to California to pursue an acting career. I wasn't successful, but I did work as a background actor in a few big movies and a lot of television shows. I have had many jobs in my life, but for the past 8 years, I have been teaching English as a foreign language. Traveling is my passion, and teaching English allows me to work and follow my passion at the same time. So far, I have lived in Thailand, Japan, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. It has been an incredible experience for me. Currently, I am in Peru. I have been living here since December 2019. I spent 2 months in Lima before moving to Arequipa, the second largest city in Peru. I live down a small walking street in the Yanahuara district of Arequipa. From my living room, I have a view of 3 of Arequipa's 4 volcanoes: Chichani, Misty, and Pichu Pichu. This is my room, my office, and my studio. It's where I've been trapped for the past 8 months, and where all the magic happens. Do you remember when I mentioned the microphone? Well, I decided to start this YouTube channel after the pandemic started, and everything here had shut down. I wasn't able to buy anything for making videos, so I had to get creative. Arequipa is known as the White City because most of the old historic buildings are constructed from a white volcanic rock called sillar. A walk around the historic city center is a must when you visit Arequipa. The architecture is stunning. There are many things to do in and around the city. Unfortunately, I have only been able to see and do a few things because of the quarantine. Right before the quarantine started, I visited the Laguna de Salinas, or Salt Lagoon. The lagoon is a few hours outside of the city and close to one of Arequipa's volcanoes, Pichu Pichu. There you can see flamingos, llamas, alpacas, and vicuñas. On the way to the lagoon, we drove through a lot of fog, but when we arrived, it had cleared up. The weather was a bit cold, but the scenery was gorgeous. After being cooped up for 5 months, I was feeling a little stir-crazy and needed to get out and see as many things as possible. Like visiting the Monasterio de Santa Catalina, a monastery in the middle of the historic part of the city that is over 400 years old and still in use today. It is very pretty and has a really fascinating history. Mollendo Beach is only a few hours west of Arequipa, and a nice place to spend a weekend outside of the city. It's still spring here, so the weather wasn't quite warm enough for swimming, but it was perfect for a bonfire. I also went on a hike in Colca Canyon, which Peru claims is the deepest canyon in the world. I took a minibus to the town of Chivay, and then decided to join a small tour before going to Cabana Conde to start my hike. The tour stopped at the small village of Yonke, where the local high school children do a traditional dance every morning for the tourists to raise money for the school.
Salud, 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 salud.
Next, we stopped at a viewpoint where we could see the ancient terraces used by the Incan civilization and the civilizations that came before them. After that, we went to another small village called Maca, where I got the obligatory tourist picture with an alpaca. Finally, we stopped at Cruz del Condor, an overlook where you have a magnificent view of the canyon and where you can see condors leaving their nests in the morning. Seeing these huge birds in nature was truly incredible. From there, I left the tour and went on a combi, or shared taxi, to Cabana Conde to start my hike. The hike was beautiful, but brutal. What a workout! My legs were exhausted after the 6-kilometer, 4-hour hike down into the canyon to the small village of San Juan de Chucho. I stayed at Posada Gloria, a wonderful guest house surrounded by trees, birds, and the sound of the river. Gloria was an amazing hostess and her food was really tasty. The next day, I hiked 10 kilometers through a few more small villages to get to Sengaye, or the Oasis. There, I stayed at the Tropical Lodge and chilled by the pool for the rest of the afternoon. The last day of my hike was the hardest. What goes down must go up. The hike was only 4 kilometers, but very steep. This weekend showed me how very out of shape I have become. Even though it was a difficult hike, I still had an excellent time and was overjoyed to be out in nature again. Since the quarantine ended, I have also been whitewater rafting on the Chili River and four-wheeling. All or parts of Peru have been in quarantine since March 16, 2020. For the first 5.5 months, the quarantine was very strict. The international borders were closed and all businesses were shut down, except hospitals, pharmacies, banks, and grocery stores. No one was allowed to leave their house unless they were going to one of these places, and a curfew was put in place. It was a very difficult time. In Peru, people have been wearing masks since the pandemic started. Here we are not allowed to leave the house without wearing one, even now. Over the past few months, things have slowly been getting back to normal with a few changes. The local market is opening up, but not all stalls are open, and it looks very different than it did 8 months ago. You can still, however, get all the things you need: fruits, vegetables, meats, cheeses, even souvenirs. Tourism is starting up again too. People are allowed to be outside in public areas and to travel around Peru. But as of today, there is still a curfew, masks are mandatory, and social gatherings in your home are prohibited. I have been trying to get back to the United States since October when the government said the airports would open to international travel. My flight has already been canceled twice and changed twice. Hopefully my current flight will stick and I will be heading back to Colorado very soon. Here are a few questions about this episode to check your understanding. In Peru, people don't have to wear masks when they are outside. A. True. B. False. B. False. What animals can't you see at the salt lagoon? A. Flamingos. B. Llamas. C. Monkeys. D. Vicuñas. C. Monkeys. What is my passion? A. Traveling. B. Teaching English. C. Shopping. D. Reading. A. Traveling. Why is Arequipa called the White City? A. Because it's covered in snow. B. Because of all the tourists. C. Because of the ash from the volcanoes. D. Because the buildings are constructed from white stone. D. Because the buildings are constructed from white stone. What state am I from in the United States? A. California. B. Ohio. C. Colorado. D. District of Columbia. C. Colorado. Did you understand everything? Let me know how you did in the comments below. You can get the full script of this episode and more information on the present perfect tenses on my blog, sipenglish.com. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my first listening video. If you did, please support me by hitting the like button and subscribing to my channel. Bye.